You're listening to Warrior Talk with Heather Thomas Van Daren and Brant Fricker. Get inspired. Be empowered. Warrior Talk.
Welcome, everybody, to another Warrior Talk. Get inspired and be empowered. I am your co host, Heather Thomas Van Daren, in case you didn't know. And of course, everybody knows, Sir Brent Fricker.
Everybody. I'm just blowing on my teeth, you know.
Good, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah. It's good to see.
Yeah, we're in quite the mood this
Yeah.
morning, but God is so good. Have y'all had
Mm.
your heart checked? Because we talked about that last week.
Oh yeah.
And that was a great show. Great show. You can go back and watch that here on my timeline, or anywhere really on Facebook for 30 days before they take it off, and then hop over to all the podcasts that you can find. Just do a search, an internet search for Brent Fricker and Heather Thomas Van Daren and Warrior Talk, and you would be surprised how many places you will find us. So
Oh yeah.
give it a shot. Give it a shot.
Give it a shot. We're on the radar. You can listen at any time and
Hey, we're even in the phone book. Remember that with Steve Martin?
oh
I'm in
yeah.
the phone
I'm
book now.
famous.
I'm somebody.
I'm famous. Yeah, I'm somebody now. The Jerk by Steve Martin. I still love that movie.
Oh, me too. Me too. So we're
Well,
going to talk about
yeah.
something a little bit. Some people love talking about it. Some people don't talk about it. But you know what? We have a lot of things to say about the topic, and it's not all involving money. So our question to you today is, wealth is created. It doesn't just happen. Maybe for somebody, for a few people, it might, but you're creating wealth every day of your life. So, what kind of wealth are you creating? What
Mhm.
about you, Brett?
Well, hey, I've had wealth here on earth, and I've had wealth in heaven, and
Amen.
the wealth here on earth comes and goes, but
Yeah.
treasures built. Well, it is interesting though, because if you conduct yourself in a way where you're building wealth in heaven, there are many times that it actually will manifest itself into wealth here
Mm,
in this
yeah.
realm, in the
You're
form
right.
of opportunity or support. Maybe someone, I'm not sure that wealth is necessarily created with t-shirts and coins and mugs, but it definitely helps, at htvministries.com. You didn't ask me to do that, but yeah, I'm excited about talking today and what real wealth is. And I think that if we get this right, then the monetary wealth becomes easier too.
It really does. I learned that years and years ago when I took a conscious effort to start being a giver. It doesn't come natural for most people. You have to put it into practice, and then it's like a test. And I know a long time ago, I decided to start tithing. I didn't really quite understand the concept. I was a young married, but when we started tithing, uh, doors started opening. We started not being able to balance the checkbooks because there was more money in there than we thought should be, and it was driving me crazy. And the bottom line was, because of our dedication to the Lord and serving Him and letting go of all of that paper money, letting go of it, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It came back, and it enabled us to buy our first home with a down payment that we couldn't figure out how we were saving that kind of money, but we were. It was coming back to us, guys. And that's a principle that God has already put in place. If you are a giver, then it comes back to you. And, He's a good God. There are rewards for obedience, that's for sure.
Well, even economists will tell you that those who give to charity are more financially successful. Why is that? Well, there's a lot of reasons why, but you reap what you sow. That
That's right.
universal law, it rains on the just and the unjust. God is not a respecter of persons, but if you become a giving person, then you're not walking in fear anymore. And I guess even in the world's sphere, You're less likely to not take risk. You're less likely to invest. You're more likely to invest in yourself. You're more likely to take wiser risk. You're more likely to operate in a way that's not fear-based. Because I think money, to a degree, is going to sound funny, but money is like love. A couple climbed the top of a mountain and found a wise sage, and what is love? And he pulls out a little bird, and he if you squeeze it too tight, you'll kill it, and if you neglect it, it'll fly away. You got Donnie Van Zant, who started 38 Special, had a song called "Hold On Loosely," and
That
so.
it's Shelton, sure, Sir Shelton is on here, and he just said that.
Oh yeah,
Hold on
hold on
loosely.
loosely. Yeah. And
Yeah,
of course
yeah,
Donnie and Johnny. Johnny, sings lead for Leonard Skinner, and they're Jesus boys now. And
yeah.
and but yeah, it puts you in a different mind frame when you are a giver. And I know that you give a lot, Heather. I know that I do too. And you give in different ways too. You give of your time, of
Hmm.
resources. And even then, though, you got to be wise, though,
That's
and
right.
it's very possible to volunteer yourself into poverty too. So you got to have a balance there. But Acts
Hmm.
20:30-35, it's more blessed to give than receive.
Mm,
Proverbs 11:25, whoever refreshes others will be refreshed.
that's
And
right.
Luke 6:38, give and it will be given to you.
Hmm.
And that's not just, the guy on TV, although I've known some of those people that are very legit, but wealth really, really is created. And but it has to be, it can be either intentionally or unintentionally passive or aggressive. We have to,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah. Ask yourself, do you make life happen, or does life happen to you? Are you a victim walking in fear, and there's a hole in your pocket, or are you happening to life and stepping out and believing? That's a whole nother way to live too.
And God, He also tells us to plan ahead and to store up for your family. And you don't just, if you come into a windfall, you don't go woohoo and just blow it. I mean, you have to think about the future and you think about, okay, if I have been blessed with this, what does God want me to do with it? Should I, the story about the three men with the talents. Do I bury it? Do I invest it? Or do I pretend like I don't have it? What do I do? Well, wisdom comes into that. You have to be wise with
You
your
you can.
finances.
Sorry. I was seeing all the people jumping on. Boy, it is a hot topic, and yeah,
Yeah.
you do have to be wise with your finances, Heather. Has always shocked me that a majority of the time, those who win the lottery are bankrupt in 2 years.
Yes, I have a friend that won $40,000 and I say, "Are you kidding me? What did you do with it?" And he goes, "I don't remember."
All right, right. And so, maybe you've been in that situation too. I've had more money than I knew what to do with at times in my life, but I can tell you that I'll know better. I'll know better next time, So
Yeah,
part of that's being
absolutely.
proactive, but Jesus said, John 10:10, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And
Hmm.
he came that what we may have life and life more abundantly.
That's right.
His purpose to provide for those who believed in him in a fulfilling and enriched life. And I tell you what,
That's wealth.
that's wealth right
That's
there.
wealth.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh
So
yeah.
I don't know, you can be standing in rags or you can be living in riches and you can still be wealthy. Or maybe you have been fortunate enough, and I say fortunate because it's a gift from God, but maybe you've been fortunate enough to once have been in rags and have made your way to standing in riches. That's a blessing from God. And we need to acknowledge that because he does make provisions like that for some of us and others, we have to be more conservative and we have to learn how to plan and budget but that's a responsibility that we all should be exercising is to don't be frivolous with whatever you have and be content with it.
Well, being a good steward, and
Yeah.
uh, uh, we're responsible. um, and how we respond to life. I was telling a friend the other day that responsibility is the ability to control your response. Well, we can apply that in our life with relationships or happenings or such. Well, how do we respond to more money? What have we decided? I was talking to this incredible pastor, and they were praying for a certain dollar amount. And I said, well, do you know what you would do with that? And the response was not quick. If my son comes to me and says, Dad, can I have $2,000? And I say, well, what for? I just want $2,000. Well, then I'm probably not going to give it to him.
That'd be a big no.
But if he says, Dad, I want to get my HVAC certification and the first semester is $2,000, here you go, son. And that's what we
That's
did.
right.
So it's because sometimes maybe you don't know why you want wealth. What would you do with wealth? Would you give an AR-15 to a baby? I mean, would you give a machine gun to a baby? I used to say that, give an Uzi to, is God going to give you what you're not ready for yet? Or have you predetermined what you would do with it, And but if I say, you know what, Lord, I really could use $100,000. Here's what I want to do. I want to help this ministry here. I want to build this and rent this out to mothers in transition, and I want to do some prison ministry. Well, that's a whole lot different than I just want money that's going to evaporate.
Mm.
Because if you don't have a plan, I used to joke, God has a plan for your life, and so does everybody else. Well,
Especially if you have money.
especially you have money, but you
I
find out who your
know.
friends are when you don't have money. And,
Yeah.
and I know plenty of millionaires that, boy, people want to be their friends. When they have money,
Yeah.
oh, they want to prophesy to them and prophesy to their children, sink their hooks into their children and keep that money flowing. But what happens when you go through a dry time? It's those who are still there for you, that,
Mhm.
and that's a whole different kind of wealth that as well. You're wealthy with friends in that way, but being happy in the moment, being 100% where you are,
That's right.
that's so much better than chasing the latest get rich quick scheme, you know,
Mm,
and otherwise
yeah,
you might find yourself on sinking sand, literally.
that's right. Literally. Yeah. I mean, money can actually ruin a person. I believe that the reason God hasn't made me rich money wise is because I don't maybe I'm not wouldn't handle it correctly. Maybe it would actually come to ruin of me. So I would rather just be where I am right now and be content and happy in my circumstances than be always seeking after the love of money. The Bible talks about the love of money. Hebrews 13:5. No, it says that the love of money is the destruction. I mean, you've got to use money as a tool for good means, for sowing seeds into others, for providing for your family. But when you start wanting more and more and more, and more is never enough, there's a problem, a big problem. And so that goes right back to being learning. Paul said, I have learned to be content in all circumstances, whether in plenty or in want. I love that scripture because it's a reminder to me when things aren't going right, just be content and don't try to fix everything because God has all the answers anyway, and He will work on your behalf in your life. And you don't have to have all this wealth to be happy. You don't.
Right, right. And you know what? The more, if he can trust you with the little things, he can trust you with the bigger things. That's why we have to make, wise decisions, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
following God's way of giving blessings, and being able to apply that. But I find that the Marxist ideology wants to villainize people who have money, and yet in my experience, the most generous
Yeah.
people I know are people with money. They just are because they see it for what it is. I'll never forget a millionaire telling me about 30 years ago, I hate money. He was a multimillionaire. And I said, why? He said,
Yeah.
I don't have any friends. Everyone wants
Mm.
something from you. And so, but there is a way to operate in that way, but you have something to say about how God can tenfold into
Well,
your life.
yes, and that was talking about um, providing for my first home, but I've got an even better story than that. I have a friend of mine he builds beautiful homes, beautiful, big, multi-million dollar homes. And he is also very content in his little country town that he lives in. And he's a cattleman, and I'm a cattlewoman, so we have that connection there. But he doesn't. You wouldn't know that about him at all. You would look at him as a cattleman, as a cowboy, as a down to earth preacher man. And then he told me the other day. He said, I don't take stock in that. He said the other day the Lord just told me in the middle of the heat to go buy some food and some iced down drinks and whatever. And he said, I just went to the park and there were some homeless people and he knew that. And he just went down to the park and just started visiting with them and feeding them and trying to cool them off a little bit with iced drinks and some food, whatever. And he goes, I don't know. I really didn't plan it. I just felt like I needed to do it. And so he did it right there on the spot. He just decided, got in his truck, went and bought the things and did it. That is the sign of somebody that has a healthy view of wealth. And it just really impressed my heart that he's sharing the wealth, but yet nobody really knows that. He's just being who he is in Christ. That's his number one goal. And that should be ours too. Just be who you are in Christ. That should be your number one goal, guys.
Yeah, I had a friend, multimillionaire, another multimillionaire. I've had several millionaire friends because I can be their friend and not want anything from them or ask anything from them. Because I knew all too well, perception's reality. People think if you're on TV all the time that you've made it, you have all kinds of money. That's not the case. Most of the time, it's not the case. Some of the lowest paying jobs are in television, folks. So, perception's reality, but it doesn't mean it's really accurate. But this man
Yeah.
named Marlon, he wanted to see people come to Jesus so bad. He was an elder at a church, and so he goes door knocking. He goes door to door in that neighborhood of that church to invite people to his church. He was called into the elders meeting and reprimanded. We don't want you doing that. You didn't get permission from us. Well, are you guys doing it? No, we're not doing it, but we don't want you doing it. You just keep giving your money. And
Mm,
he left that church. And so
yeah, for good reason.
they lost their best giver. Because again, there's a hunger in the heart of people who want to make a difference. And it's not always building the newest building that's going to sit empty during the week. Uh,
Yeah.
Sometimes it's investing in souls. And I'm not knocking it, folks. I mean, you know how much I am for the church, but come on. The enemy of the best is the good. We got to get first things first. People are more
Yeah.
important than things. And that's why, that's why you got to get your priorities right. It's more important to win the souls of the world than it is to build your own kingdom, or the
Yeah.
latest fly by night ministry that you're not even sure it's a ministry or not. So some of the best funded ministries are the least legit, not all, and some of the best ministries are the least funded. So what I mean. I'll say it again. I mean, yesterday I was with a great man who ministers to the community, does so much great ministry, but he doesn't have the funding that a lot of these more shallow ministries have. It's almost like, hey, let's have a fundraiser for the BLF HB, Better Lunches for Heather and Brant. If you're going to give to a
Yeah.
ministry, you need to verify it. There's more
Yeah.
to life than GoFundMe. You know,
That's right.
those kind of treasures can be worthless, and it's more important to find what the true treasure is, and of course
Mm,
that's building your treasure in heaven.
that's right. Yes. And redemption through Jesus Christ. I mean, if you're redeemed, you have wealth already. I mean, and that's something that can't be taken away from you. You know, on Warrior Talk, we have all these different topics, but the bottom line is we want you to know Christ and we want you to be warriors for him. So make sure that you are redeemed today. And all of this stuff, everything that we have to say is nothing. It's a nothing burger, guys, if you don't know Jesus as your savior. And so that's of the utmost important to us. And then you can take these principles and you can apply them. You know, Brant, you had told me we have our Monday study time together on the phone, and you said something, and you said, wealth is peace.
Mm,
And I thought, I am writing that down because that is so simple, but yet so profound.
yeah.
That's what wealth really is peace. And you have peace in Christ. And then all the other stuff just kind of falls into place, doesn't it, Brant?
It does. You know, Elvis Presley once said, I would give $1 million for one night of peace. And this is someone who had it all.
Yeah.
But a night of peace was worth $1 million to him. You know, we talked about there was some Western where these people compromised themselves. They robbed, they stole, they killed because they wanted to find this treasure they were told about. They dig up the treasure
Yeah.
and it was worthless. It was a lot of money, but it was Confederate money. It wasn't worth anything like today's
Yeah.
money. But you know, sometimes the journey ends where it begins. Sometimes you're already walking in what you would like to have, you know. So some of you already have a treasure, you don't even realize it. And it might need you know, an outside perspective. We'll get to that, but
Mhm.
every empire though has fallen, and usually around 250 years. You
Yep.
have something to say about a paper that was written in
Yeah, there
70.
was a paper that was written by a British man in his what was it, 1976, and his name is Sir John Glubb. Glubb, what a last
Glub.
name, right? Glib. Uh, but anyway, so the paper is called the Fate of Empires, and he did a bunch of research over the years, and every major empire that has existed, going all the way back to the Roman Empire, it about 250 years, and then there was a collapse, and it was a man-made collapse. We did it to ourselves. Everybody did it to themselves. But you know, uh, America's not going to be here forever, guys. I believe this is going to be our last empire, and Jesus is going to come and he's just going to set everything right. So, why are you constantly chasing treasures? Why? Why are you constantly trying to get more money, make more money, working three jobs, forsaking your family? I mean, this is hard. I get it. Everybody has a different circumstance. Maybe you have to work three jobs because you're just barely getting by. But maybe you're working three jobs because you can't stand being idle. It doesn't matter what it is. Don't chase after the things of this world, guy, because it's all going to fall away. And know that you know that you know that your salvation is in Jesus Christ, because that's where our treasures are stored. You know, Brant, we're going to have a lot of surprises when we make it to heaven. I believe with all our heart. You know that old song by Ray Boltz, Thank You for Giving to the Lord?
Hmm, hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love that song. And I can envision that happening. You know, we make an impact as believers of Jesus Christ. We make an impact that we sometimes are not even aware of. And we're storing up treasures in heaven. There are going to be people there in heaven that are there because of us, and we might not even realize it. So, you know, let's like you said, let's set things straight. Let's put first things first and let everything else fall into place and not worry so much about the things of this world.
Right. Well, you know, we can't be a slave, you know, to things. I've heard it said, do you own that or does it own you? You know, do you really
Mm,
own anything? I own my home. No, you don't. You're paying property taxes on it. You don't own it.
yeah,
Huh? Right. I
that's
own
the
my car.
truth.
No, you don't. You gotta go to the county assessor, pay taxes every week for every year for your car. What I'm
Yeah.
saying is you got to wake up to reality and take pleasure in the small things. I never forget a story about a businessman. He's stressed out, goes on vacation, more stressed out, sees this hombre leaning up against a palm tree with his hat down, fishing on the beach. Hey, man, you look really relaxed. Yes, sí, senor. Man, this is really, really cool. And he said, what does your day look like? Well, I go fishing, and then I go home, and my senorita cooks the fish, and we take a siesta, and later on I play cards and drink tequila with my friends. And he goes, whoa, wow, that's what a life, what he thought, right? He said, why don't you get an operation, get a bunch of boats and matching t-shirts and get a franchise and start getting a bunch of fish and making lots of money, maybe even get a second house on the East Coast, and then you can retire. And the hombre says, well, why would I do that? He said, so you could fish in the morning and take it home to your siesta and to your senorita and have a siesta and go play cards and drink tequila. The man was already living the life that was coveted. Some of us already have the peace and the life that others covet. When you take pleasure in the things that matter, having a home. Doesn't matter how big your home is, you can only be in one room at a time. So having a home, having a family, having a relationship with your wife and children. Well, I got to pay for all this stuff. Well, then maybe you should sell some of the stuff. You can't get back lost time. And and
Yeah.
and so all that to say is it's really, really important, whether it's family or finances, being exactly where you are in that space, the blessing that God bestows on us, the ability to have peace, and not to be a slave to things, not to be owned by things,
Right.
but to stop the world and check our ethics, check our heart, you know, because the bottom line, it's like not Schindler's List, but Shawshank Redemption. Either get busy living or get busy dying. And I want to
Yeah.
get busy living. How about you, Heather?
Me too. And this reminds me of your book, one of my favorite books ever,
Oh.
Red Pill Prophet. And that's your bad because you brought that up on Facebook the other day. So now I'm thinking about that book all over again. I really have some, gleaned some pearls of wisdom from there. But I love the fact that it's true. Our life has already been written. You guys, I mean, God already knew the plans that He had for us, and He has already written out our lives. And all we have to do is learn to walk in it. Maybe it's not going to be the wealthiest person in America. Maybe it's going to be just sitting just right so that you have that extra to help others that have so much less. Just walk it out. Walk out your life that God already has for you, and don't worry so much about, I can't quit saying it, chasing the things of the world. Just rest in Him, and you'll find true peace and true wealth and happiness. And I know it sounds trite, but it's true. And, we have to be warriors for Christ above everything else. That's what we do. That's what we're here to help you guys grasp, is to live pure, speak truth, right wrong, and follow the King. The Knight's Creed, you can get that on the back of our mug, guys. But the bottom line is just be who God created you to be, and everything else will fall into place. And, I'm learning. I'm still learning, Brant, to walk daily and just seek His face and ask Him, you've already ordered my steps, so help me to find out what those steps are this very day. Just this day. That's all I need to worry about. Don't you agree, Brant?
I agree. And that's peace, walking in peace. Oh my gosh, so wonderful. So
Yeah.
wonderful. I live in peace. I'm passionate. I am a warrior. I do fight the fight more than anybody knows behind the
Yeah.
scenes. But and I have a public, happy-go-lucky, sweet, funny, fat, happy face. Sometimes a fat face. Depends what I've done. We've already exceeded our recording time, but I can tell you that peace is priceless, and protect your peace. Protect your peace. But
Yeah.
we know the Prince of Peace, and it's not chaos. I think about the graphic, the two circles. One circle, there's all this noise, and somewhere there's the cross. Well, no wonder you're jacked up. You can even be in ministry and be that way. An occupational hazard of ministry is going to hell because you don't have a relationship with God. But here's the other graphic, and that is you can have all these things going in your life, and I got a lot of things going. But when the cross is in the middle, it all is balanced out. And
That's right.
so, live from the inside out. Don't live from the outside in. Well, if I just had this, right? Or if they would just do this, or they, no, no, no. That's being a slave, being controlled by the external things. I've seen whole demographics of people that can't even live their life in peace. They blame the white man, or they blame this, or they blame the black man, or what. Look, stop the world, live from the inside out. And that starts with,
Mm,
with peace. And
yeah.
that's true wealth. It's stopping the world and making sure, hey, are we good? As long as we're good here, right? Then you can live in vertical time, right? And
Hmm.
again, all we have is today. Some of you are worried about your health. Don't waste a day of life. I know what it's like not being in a body. I know what it's like not being in this realm. Let me tell you, you are very fortunate just to be breathing air. Breathe in the name of God, Yahweh, the unpronounceable name. It's a breath. Breathe it in,
Yeah.
and don't waste your life in envy or jealousy, or this fearful mentality, but stop the world, come from a place of strength, drink life, and live in peace. And that comes from knowing the Prince of Peace. And we've had a great warrior talk today, Heather.
Mm. It's been good for me because it's been reminders. Sometimes when we say things, it reminds ourselves, and it's good. It's good to be alive, guys, and we love you. We'll see you next week for another Warrior Talk.
See you next time.